So we're back to check out some paranormal experiences that have left viewers stunned. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's check it out.
Listen, I have only had one true, genuine paranormal experience in my life, and I can't deny it because my cousin and my aunt were involved. This story makes me feel so unsettled in the worst kind of way, but Jordan gets home from the airport in 2 hours. He's been gone, and you guys were kind of asking about it on live when I touched on it, and I did a story time like 7 years ago on my YouTube, so this will be the only time I'm telling it again. I am a healthy skeptic. That's what I would like to call it. I don't want to deny that anything is there, but I would prefer for it not to be because it feels safer. Me and my cousin were both.
Yo, I've never heard somebody say, I'm a healthy skeptic. I prefer it not to be. That's why I'm a skeptic. I'm like, huh? You want to be that way, so you make yourself that way just because you feel like that way is safer. That's the first time I've heard that.
Not to be because it feels safer. Me and my cousin were both into scary movies and like darker things, but my cousin was younger than me and she was a little bit more into it. Like she had like the Living Dead dolls collection and stuff like that. And though there were other circumstances and weird situations that happened in my life, this is the only one that I hold to be like validly true. But previous to the story I'm going to tell you, you need a little background information. And that is that my grandmother had a house where a wife left her husband and he himself in the house. Prior to us living there, I lived with my grandma for a long time, or I was pretty much always there growing up. But also my grandma's landlord used to summon angels in a room in the basement that my grandma would not let us go in. This is the side of my family that is a very...
What? So not only did somebody themselves, not only did somebody do that to themselves, and you know that while living here, you also have a landlord that's out here practicing all kind of evil things, summoning things. Like, bro, I so much like am nervous about moving places, because if you're in a place and you've been there for so long and nothing's ever happened to you, you kind of don't want to leave that. You know what I mean? You kind of feel safe. A new place always brings about new experiences and situations and things happening. God, that irks me.
This is the side of my family that is a very, very unreligious. To the point at my father's funeral 5 years ago, my great-grandmother stood up and cussed out the man that stood up front. I don't know what they call those guys. But he was told not to mention anything about Jesus, and he did, and my grandma flipped out and was using profanity at my father's funeral. Okay, so I'm having a sleepover at my cousin's house. She lives in a trailer, and we are talking about nightmares that we have had. I had perpetual, reoccurring, intense nightmares, 3 of them that recurred over and over and over and over for years throughout my childhood. But I had one that was different, and it took place in my grandmother's house. And at this point in my life, sitting on this couch telling my cousin about this nightmare, my grandma had sold the house. And I was like, all my nightmares have stopped since grandma sold the house. Isn't that weird? And I was telling her about this specific nightmare about walking down the steps. My grandma let us paint the wall walking down the steps into the basement, but in the nightmare, all of the images were like grotesque and eerie and disgusting and genuinely like got more and more morbid as I went down the steps. We had a cat that lived in the basement because she had a bunch of offspring that would beat her up, so we would keep her safe in the basement. And in the dream, this cat is hissing at something behind the door to the room that we weren't allowed in. Whatever. My cousin starts crying as I'm telling her this nightmare. And I'm like, dude, I didn't mean to scare you. Oh my God. Like, you're into more just creepy stuff than I am. And she's 2 years younger than me, so I'm like, oh my God, I just like petrified her. And she's like shaking, visibly shaking. And she's like, no, I'm freaking out because I've had the exact same dream. What? Mind you, I'm like 13. She's, what, 11? We decide to draw a picture of the creature we seen in our dream before describing it to each other. Go to part 2. Listen, I have only had...
Yo, first of all, me and her could probably be related, bro. I come from some... I've heard of some crazy things that have, and seen some crazy things that have happened in my family. So I identify with her with the whole craziness. Yeah, her grandmom, though, salute to her grandmoms. You know what I mean? That's something I've never seen before. For a grandmom to get up and curse somebody out at a funeral, bro. Like, I've never, since I've been on this planet, seen anything like that. I've seen a few arguments take place, scuffles, almost come to blows at a funeral. But to see someone start preaching, because you kind of sort of expect that at a funeral. So You expect to hear that type of talk, but to see, wow, that's crazy. Now, onto her dream and your cousin having the same dream. It had to be that place. Something, yeah, that place, that's bad. I want to see part two of this to see what ended up happening and stuff like that. But remember how I told y'all, like, I'm surprised a lot of people don't go back and visit like places they used to live at that they had like traumatizing experiences such as this one. I'm surprised people don't go back and do that more often and go back and visit those places and ask the people that live there now currently if it's still standing and occupied, do they have the same experiences? I would totally do that. Seriously.
If you like paranormal, listen to what just happened to me and my husband. So we're sitting at the table eating dinner, right? And our window's open because we have Siberian Huskies. It's cold out. They forced us to open the window. They're like bullies, but nonetheless. Window's open. We're eating, we're sitting, and all of a sudden the dogs pop up and they're both by the window. And that doesn't happen. These dogs could literally, somebody could be breaking in the house and taking all my and they would not even give a singular That's just how Huskies are. So we're like, okay, well what the is out this window, right? So me and my husband are like kind of just like looking, and I say to the dogs, obviously not thinking I'm gonna get an answer, hey, who do you guys say? And I kid you not, we hear a voice that I've never heard before. It sounded like a child's voice say, it's me. It better not be. I don't want no. It better not be you. My husband runs downstairs, gets his gun. I start backing away from the window because I'm like, I don't care who it is. Like, no, thank you. He goes outside, scopes out the area. We have a camera, nothing on the camera, nobody in the yard. We have a fenced-in yard. Like, no. If you like
I was always told, and y'all let me know, were y'all told the same thing? If you ever hear or you ask a question and something answers, that you never acknowledge it. Have y'all heard that same thing before? Maybe y'all haven't. Maybe it's just me or something. I watch a lot of weird, crazy, as you can tell, my whole YouTube is that. But yeah, I was always told you do not answer it, because if you do, you acknowledge it, bro. You acknowledge everything that comes with it. It's kind of like you're inviting it in, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, hey, if I was her and her husband, I don't blame him for going to get his, you know what? Like, bump that. No, I ain't finna be hearing no voices that's responding to me in my own house. You crazy out your mind. Man, please, bro. We had to leave there that night. Ain't no way.
What paranormal experience turning from a skeptic to a...
Okay, so...
Oh, I don't even know if I want to hear this right now. It's because it's Atlanta, and I know exactly where Grady Hospital is. I've been there before. This might not be good for me to hear, but bump it. Let's do it. Let me psych myself out.
Back in 2005, I was 13 at the time. My oldest sister ended up getting very sick. Now, she has sickle cell anemia, so SS type. And so if you're familiar with that, you know that it's the worst type. And so she was always sick, in and out of the hospital. She used to beg my mother not to take her to Grady Hospital, that is downtown Atlanta, Georgia. And so this particular time, she had to have a gallbladder, her spleen removed, she needed a blood transfusion and something else. And you know, Grady's one of the biggest hospitals for surgery, and so that's...
And yes, I know y'all have probably heard tons of horror stories and different things when it comes to there. You know what I mean? I can neither confirm nor deny any of that stuff, but I know people gonna bombard the comments with, I've heard some things about Grady. So have I. You know what I'm saying? So have I. But like I said, I'm a real one, so I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I can neither confirm nor deny those stories. I've never had any experience, but let's keep going.
It's hospitals for surgery, and so that's where they ended up sending her to have the surgery. And so my mother, after the surgery was done, my mother wanted us to go and see her, and so we all ended up going down there.
So my sister was good or whatever. We were cool talking. Everything was fine. Until my sister kind of like looked off in the corner behind where we were sitting. And so my mother's like, Chantel, what are you looking at? And she's like, y'all don't see that girl in the corner. And my mom's like, no, we don't see no girl in the corner. What does she look like? And so my sister's like, she's a girl and she's holding a teddy bear and she's telling me to come play with her. And so
No, nurse. I'd have started screaming, nurse, hit that little button. Hit that button. And you bet not go to that little girl with that bear. You better not.
and she's telling me to come play with her.
No.
And so my mom is like, tell her no. And so my sister looks back at the corner and she tells the girl no or whatever. The next thing you know, my sister jumps back. And so my mom's like, what? My mom jumped up like, what? And she was like, the girl's face turned into like a half burnt face. And so immediately my mom started praying. And so me and my little sister and my other sister looking around like, what's going on? And so while my mom was praying, we all noticed that my sister was pressing the button on the side of her bed, like basically making her bed rise up in the air. And my mom ended up opening her eyes and looking, and that's when we all seen something like maybe a hand or something going up the side of my sister's bed, up under the covers, and she was basically raising her bed so that the hand couldn't touch her. You have to like for part 2.
What paranormal
Holy bro, we'd have had a scene in the hospital, fam. We'd have been loud. We'd have been praying. We'd have been throwing holy water everywhere. Are you kidding me right now? Do not. I'd have been in there screaming. They'd have probably removed me from hospital, bro. Don't you go to that little girl. And then when she said the face changed, that confirmed it for me. That confirmed everything. You bet not go to her. That's how I imagine how they try to trick you. You know what I mean? You're still in that, like, would you consider that purgatory, or what would you consider? I say purgatory because I used to watch them little shows. But what is that in between phase? You're there, so it's like they're trying to convince you to keep going. Come with me. Come see, I'm fun. And soon as she rejected her, switched up, changed. And it was like they were trying to pull her at that point, and she was trying to escape. Fam. That's one of them things, man. Now, I know y'all gonna be killing Grady in the comment sections, man, but chill. Y'all gotta chill on Grady like that, bro.
Okay, so growing up, many paranormal things would happen to me. The ghosties were always trying to hang. So if you don't believe in ghosties and you don't believe me, just pretend so that I feel less insane. And it was starting from the beginning. When I was like 7, I would always have the same dream of me with a bunch of ghosts standing around me, and they would be like, we're your friends. And I was like, friends, okay, so look, I get the whole networking thing, but I'm 7, and I'm scared of you, quite frankly. So we can be acquaintances, if that, because even that terrifies me. So no, I'm not your bestie. But I grew up in a house with 4 siblings, or 5 of us, and there are 2 things that were working against me here. Was number 1, I was the most terrified of ghosts, okay? And I was the only one that really believed in them. And number 2, they had a favorite. And it kind of seemed like it was me, because in all of these stories, I was a common denominator. Basically, like, our garage door would open and close by itself, our stereo system would blast mariachi music, like, randomly all the time. I would complain a lot about it sounded like people were walking around upstairs when no one was there, when I was home alone. No one really believed me until on Christmas Eve one year, me and my older sister, we were home alone. It was really late at night for some reason. We were up on the couch, and we heard a lady crying in our house. And we were like, what is that noise? So we thought it was our cat. And we were like, is Jack okay? Is he like dying? It was like the most disturbing cry. It was like, I can't even like recreate it. We looked at each other and like froze, and we looked down and our cat was sitting next to us on the couch. So we immediately knew someone broke in. So we get up and we left the house, and our mom came and checked the house, and no one had broken in. And it was coming from the basement. No one was there. So That was a ghost. Months later, I was about to start high school and I was terrified. So the night before the first day, I was wide awake, couldn't sleep. And then on my nightstand, I had a glass of water in the very middle and it tipped over and water spilled everywhere, all over my room by itself. And I sit up and I immediately knew. I was like, are you kidding me? Picture day is tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to sleep now. So I'm sitting up and my lights turn on and I freeze. I'm like, if I get off this, my lights were on. And the water was spilling everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, if I get up off this bed right now, are they gonna hurt me? So I'm frozen. My body feels paralyzed. I'm terrified. All of a sudden, my ceiling fan starts spinning at the weirdest speed that I don't, it's on a setting that was on the fan. It was like really slow. I don't know. I screamed, I woke everyone up and I ran into my mom's bed, climbed in there and I knew she wasn't gonna believe me, but I was shaking and I was like, Mom, our house is haunted. I'm sick of this. And she was like, I know. And I was like, you know? My little brother switched rooms with me because I was too scared to ever sleep in that one again. And then things got way worse. Okay, so growing up, many paranormal things would happen to me. The ghosties were always trying to...
The entire time she's thinking about that, you know what I couldn't stop thinking of, right? A lot of times, right, we send our kids, we allow our kids to have friends, you know what I mean? So they go over people's house. Now that I'm sitting back and thinking, how many times did my kid go to somebody's house who had a lot of paranormal activity going on? Didn't even know, you know what I mean? Because sometimes your kid's not going to tell you if they went over somebody's house and was playing with them. Say, for instance, you had a daughter and they were friends and they playing together and she's having all these paranormal experiences and stuff like that. What if that thing jumped on your daughter and she brought it home to your house and now that thing is all in your house and different things like that? We don't know how these things work. But I'm just sitting there and I'm hearing her talk about all the activity taking place in her home. And then she said there's a part two, so there's more. So she went through this throughout her childhood into teenage years and probably beyond. That's crazy. That's crazy to have that much activity. Like I start thinking like, okay, was y'all doing any type of conjuring or any type of things taking place in y'all's home? Why does y'all home have so much activity? There's no way for us to know. There's no way for us to possibly know we sending our kid over to someone's house who has that stuff going unless they tell him. So y'all need to have a conversation with your kids, man. Hey, did you go over little Johnny's house today? Yeah. So what y'all did? Y'all have any fun? Y'all have fun? Yeah, we did. Anything? And you see any ghosts? Like you gotta figure out a way to ask that question to your kid. You know what I mean? You gotta know. Ask them straight up. Have those conversations because you need to know. That way you can be like, okay, you can't play with them no more. No, you can't go over there. Sorry, you gotta get you another friend. No. And yeah, we gotta save them.
What paranormal experience turning from a skeptic to a believer?
So when I first left home and moved out on my own with my boyfriend, I moved into a house that to this day still kind of freaks me out to talk about. I don't talk about this place very much with people, so probably even a lot of my friends don't know any of this. We moved into this little tiny adobe. It had only been built like I think 5 years before, so it wasn't old or anything like that. This place was really messed up, and I started figuring that out like within 72 hours of moving in, that something was really wrong here.
Again, it's always a new place, right?
I remember the second night we were there, I was home alone cooking dinner. My boyfriend hadn't got home from work yet. And I'm standing at my stove and I just get this feeling that somebody is watching me in a very negative way. Like as if somebody is standing there right behind me, just staring holes through my back. And I remember getting completely covered from head to toe in chills. And you have to understand, like, I'm not a person that gets freaked out being home alone. Like, I like my space. I like being alone. I like quiet. This was totally out of character for me to get like this. And I was so freaked out and I could not shake the feeling. And then a day or two later, I had this big, heavy glass vase sitting in my windowsill. And again, this was an adobe house. And if you've ever been in adobe, you know that they have like 2 feet thick walls, like big, thick walls. And this vase was sitting in the windowsill. And I watched this thing
fly out, not fall over, fly out, shatter on my tile floor. And it shattered so hard that I actually found glass shards that had like nicked the walls. It was crazy. And again, I was there home alone, and this was broad daylight when this happened. So then, a couple of nights later, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw a free-floating gray mist at the foot of my bed. And I was not dreaming. I wasn't having sleep paralysis. Like, I was fully cognitive, fully awake, watching this thing. And it just stayed there until finally I looked away because I was so freaked out. I just pulled the covers over my head and tried to forget that I saw it. Then I found out that my boyfriend was having night terrors about a demon that lived in the air vents in the ceiling that was trying to attack him. But I had already been having dreams about this same demon trying to attack both of us, but specifically him. And I just hadn't told him because it was really freaking me out. And we also had numerous friends see like shadow figures like at parties. We'd have people come up to us and just tell us like they felt really weird and they needed to leave. This place was crazy.